talking about my story and my journey. As I just mentioned very briefly, my journey is going to take you in the complex world of law and justice, and the area which is so traditional with the worlds of black and white, black letter law, as we said. And what is important and interesting for me is that this is somebody's humble attempt at changing it. Lot remains to be done, but this is where I feature in. This is my personal story of challenges and opportunities and excitement and potential that I see of simplifying understanding of law and justice. Um, I feel very strongly about, as a lawyer, the field of law and justice from the efficiency and effectiveness perspective. I say this because as a practicing attorney in India, I saw how long it takes once a case or dispute reaches the court of law. There are certain areas of law, such as, let's say, the land disputes, or you know, or some of the family disputes also, takes such long time, almost decades to solve. These are people's lives at stakes. These are people's futures at stake, and their peace and mental well-being. When you're talking about something so universal as justice, this delay, when I saw in front of my own eyes, people coming again and again to the court of law for the same case, it broke my heart every single day. I used to see lines of people. And this is quite symbolic because, there is a system where the lawyers would have seen that there is a cold storage of cases. So once a case gets admitted, that means the first hearing takes place and the judge would decide this way or that way, that whether this case is worth arguing further or should it be dismissed. If it is not dismissed and if it is worth found merit of, then it would join a long list of cases in front and it will become the last one in the line. And until and unless the first list is solved, then only your case will come. So literally some of the cases that I was arguing were in 2006, 7, 1987, 1981. So it was fairly old cases. This is also very ironic because this much delay is unpardonable, I would say, almost, in a world where everything is available to us, mostly everything, at a click of a button. You can buy an airline ticket at a click of a button. You can buy a piece of cloth or your next meal at a click of a button. But when you're talking about justice, why should it take years and years to solve? So this, as a lawyer, was shocking. One of the other things that I realized is that the people who knew the system, we just talked about diversity here, and this is where also the economic inequality came for me. The people who knew the right people who knew the law, had an unfair advantage at navigating themselves across the system. If you do not know how to kind of get your way around, or unfortunately not even the right people, it takes the system kind of makes you go round and round. And indeed, the size of your wallet should not determine the way the scales of the justice tip. The moment you have, a very senior lawyer who knows his or her way around, you have a higher chances of winning, quote unquote. Should it be this way? I would question. I still do. And then, as a lawyer, this was also extremely overwhelming for me. Honestly, as a law student, when I had to go through hundreds of cases full of judgment, hundreds of pages of one judgment, for example, I was wondering, it was honestly very boring. Honestly, the judges were saying things which I could understand maybe in a few pages also. It really did not require hundreds of pages. What about ordinary citizens? Like, how would they approach something which is presented to them in such bulky, unwelcoming a way? And naturally, people around us, when it comes to the area of law and justice, they hesitate. They say, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to get into it. I hope that I never have to cross that path. Indeed, it is such an important information, but presented it in extremely unfriendly way. I realized what can be done. I come from the land, of quite extreme realities. The question that if ignorance of law is not an excuse, how do we bridge this legal knowledge gap kept on resonating with me when I was practicing law. When I looked at some of the lawyers who had performed quite well in the society in terms of making a huge social impact, I saw that they were all lawyers. Yeah, I'll skip that, but I'll come back to this. And I saw that, you know, people like Mahatma Gandhi, who I so much look up to, was also a lawyer. And when I saw this, that more and more cases were being filed as people are getting more educated, I looked to people like Gandhi to find my own answers as to what can be done. Gandhi said something very important. He said, "Be the change you wish to see in the society," and that is why, indeed, I decided that rather than pointing fingers as to what can be done about this massive challenge, this mammoth challenge, since it takes years, who am I as a young woman to kind of attempt at this bravery? But I decided to do my own bit to make sure that laws and institutions, they are cleaned up. They're set to true time in whatever little capacity that I could do. And that's why I took up this journey to make law simple. And if it is to be made simple, what could be done? I came up with the idea, along with my sister, to make comic books on law for kids. And we decided to call it Lawtoons. Honestly, friends, when I saw that, the years of backlog of cases was putting the best of the minds away, I was looking at what are the ways in which people understand laws and rights, even otherwise, even without or before going to the justice systems. In our textbooks in schools, there are certain lessons and chapters on law and civics, which is what we call the civics education. But it's presented in such dull and boring way that the children are bored. They don't want to study it. But if something interesting, colorful, visual is given to them, they are excited. In fact, they should not know that they are being educated or taught. They are just it should be presented to them in such fun and storytelling manner that they learn while being excited to learn further. As I said, an aware citizenry lies at the foundation of vibrant democracy, and who better than kids, young minds, to make this impact with. And indeed, this is our journey to create simplification of laws and rights in English and Hindi for now, and the translations are also almost ready in different various local languages in India. The first Lawtoons that we created is a compendium on fundamental rights. We decided to see what are the basic areas in the Constitution that affects everyone. And we decided to take the 5 most important rights and tell them to children in a fun way. How did we make this possible? It's a long story, but I'll be very, very brief here. I started a think tank of which Lawtoons became an offshoot, and to fund Lawtoons, what we did was we did a crowdfunding campaign. So people came from different parts of the world and different parts of India to make Lawtoons a possibility. They said, whoa, this idea is interesting. We want to see it become a reality. So they funded Lawtoons. We had 2 rounds of successful crowdfunding. So it is indeed that you don't have to always look for big donors. You don't have to look for big investors. Anyone can kind of make it a reality if persisted enough, I think. When we took Lawtoons to kids in schools, we had a phenomenal response. When we showed them in a civics class and compared Lawtoons with a civics textbook, 100% of the kids said, we want Lawtoons. So it was such a beautiful validation for the idea. And in fact, we saw that 70% of the kids also retained the law, which was explained in the comic book. I also want to talk a little bit about the challenges, but let me first go through the exciting part, which is, yes, and a bit of an impact number that we've sold about 8,000 books so far. And the books are available on Amazon for anybody who wants to have a look at it. As I said, the interesting part is for me to take all of you through the journey of Lawtoons itself. So what I've decided to do before I talk about the challenges is to talk you through what the story is actually about. As I said, it is supposed to be fun and visual. So this is what the story looks like. me and my sister went to a child psychologist, in fact several of them, to understand how children think. Of course, one of the things that we were doing was to go to schools and telling children stories about laws. So we understood how kids react to authority, how kids react to complicated information. And when we kind of spoke to the children psychologists, they also said that, you know, the way they react to parents is changing now, the way they react to technology is changing now, and we wanted to make Lawtoons also very much tuned to the realities of the kids of India. So and what kind of, you know, they, if the parents say something, they will do exactly the opposite. So who should we put in the comic book which will tell children about, you know, the laws? Since the comic books are aimed at the kids between the age of 10 to 14, we decided to take a protagonist. We decided to call him Paglu, of a 10-year-old child in a city of Ahmedabad. Why we chose Ahmedabad is that because it's the city where me and my sister grew up, and I also worked for a significant time before moving now to the Netherlands. That, you know, it were the realities of our own lives. So the characters were very, very kind of being made alive on the comic book, which were real, which were authentic and genuine. So that is also very important. When you're creating something which is complicated for kids, it has to be very authentic, otherwise they can see through it. So let me with this introduction. Yes, it is the birthday of the protagonist of the story, and the story starts with that. One of the things that we wanted to also show, that the child is extremely naughty. His best friend is a dog called Sin, and the kid is always playing pranks. And children also quite laugh at these things, and they love to see this thing. Now, the child is also a little bit of a greedy child, and the child wants everything. The child wants the best of the gifts and best of the cakes and things like this. So the party is being organized, and if you see here, the gifts first, cake later, it's quite hilarious. And yeah, that kind of humor, because we knew that kids respond good to it. There is a surprise for the child. The surprise is that the late grandfather has put a birthday gift, a surprise birthday gift for his 10th birthday, which the grandmother is supposed to give him.
Hello.
um, a song as a gift, and the child just wouldn't accept it. This is important because we are going to be talking about freedom of speech and expression here. So it will come, but that's how the story is being woven into it. But the fight gets erupted and the cake gets spoiled, and Paglu is massively disappointed. He feels first a horrible birthday present from the grandfather, which he cannot relate to, and now also the cake is spoiled, and I am just disappointed. So he goes away from his own party to his room, and he starts hearing different voices in the room itself, and he feels, where are all these sounds coming from? And the sounds are also things like, when all else fails, there is law. And he's feeling, where is this magic coming from? And alas, there is a ghost of a judge that appears from the constitution book, who is called Judgeny, because he says this is a judge, a genie of a judge. Going to call him Judgeny. And Judgeny is the character who's going to tell Paglu about the laws and rights. So the journey starts from here. This is how we've kind of tried to make a character who is there but not yet there, who can play pranks, who can do magic, so kids can also have that wow factor. And this is also presented in a way there are stories within stories. So Jajani is not going to tell to do this, to do that, or not to do this. Nobody likes that to be told. So Jajani is going to put stories and questions in front of Paglu, and Paglu will figure things out himself. So the ethical dilemmas, the legal dilemmas are presented, where the child is pushed. So this way also we wanted to push the kids to think for themselves and come up with the answers themselves. And kids also respond quite well to this. So this is a little bit of a snapshot from the book Lawtoons. I would like to end now with this quote, which I feel strongly about, which is by Margaret Hagan of Stanford Design School. I'll just read one important statement because she says, law and design are not often brought in conversation with each other, but this is a big loss. And the highlighted line I would like to read because it is important, that design law promises more efficiency, better relationships, and new way of resolving disputes. And if you apply human-centered design to law, fundamentally it contributes to both the fields of law as well as design. With this really inspiring quote, I would like to end that if if we talk about the world of law and justice, um, the image of having bunch of serious old men in dusty robes is changing, of course, with technology, but also with design. And we as a team of Lawtoons, we feel that we are disappointing you if that is your vision, but we are very happy to disappoint you there. Not sorry. So with that, I stop my presentation and I am looking forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize for being a bit late to your session, but this was incredible. I'm going to be very honest with you. I took some of the screenshots because I love how these cartoons are looking like. I mean, I'm amazed, and this is very, very much needed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll send you these copies.
Oh, yes. And please sign them too, so we have the original signatures. This is such an amazing story. I mean, just hearing that you and your sister decided to actually do that and take on such an incredible endeavor. I mean, congratulations. So first off, I would like to present you because I'm not sure if people actually told the audience who you are. So Kanan Dhru, Justice Innovation Researcher. You started in 2009, if I'm not mistaken, the Research Foundation for Governance in India, a think tank, like you mentioned, working on legal and political reforms. And then in 2014, the Lawtoons and Law for Me actually was established. And today you work at the Hague Institute for International for Innovation of Law. I mean, all together, these kind of clicks together well. It's almost like a puzzle. You were, since early beginnings, very much attracted to the innovation in law. At least that's how it seems. One more question that I have, how are these Lawtoons being perceived outside the small circle of people that are obviously, like myself, very much amazed by the cartoons? Is it something that people would grab and, you know, read even if they're not kids? What is their perspective on it?
This is really interesting, Anya, because I had the in mind that the audience is kids, you know, so we want to take Lawtoons to schools. But the moment we start telling people about the fact that we are making comics on law, it was like, wow, that's such a great idea. You should do it for this topic also, and that topics also, and for taxation also, and for starting of companies also, and for immigration law also. So honestly, you know, we are living in a very visual world, and even comics is it's actually serving a very important purpose for a country like India, where a lot of people don't have access to technology. So a lot of times when we are talking about legal innovation in a developing context, everybody is aware that the internet penetration is about 5 to 10%, and a large percentage of the society does not have the access. But books, you can definitely send them. The government can have access to, you know, this method of reaching, and a book can also reach many kids in the same school, in the same village. So yes, the response of other individuals, not kids, has been fantastic. I'll just say kids have loved it. So there are certain kids who have made their wallpapers of Lawtoons, so that's been extremely humbling. One of my you know, how can I say, there is this young child that I know who cannot read and write as yet, but every evening she sits with a copy of Lawtoons and just goes through the pictures because she laughs at some of the fun visuals and the colors and things like this. So yes, I think it is really, really overwhelmingly powerful to see how much people have positively reacted to it. I mentioned that I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenge, and I'll just say this, that you know, making a Lawtoons is an expensive affair, and I think it was really blessed endeavor that the crowdfunding became so successful. But writing a book and going to the publisher, so now we are attached to a publisher who sends the books across the different parts of the world and across India and ties up at bookstores. But each page costs also, you know, quite a lot. So it takes time. It takes time to create Lawtoons. So we would love to see that, you know, more and more interesting collaborations are being made. One interesting collaboration, I'm sorry, again, I'm distracting because this is an area where I've put so much of myself and I feel so strongly about and excited as well, that one of the government agencies, the Election Commission of India, reached out to us a couple of years ago before I came here. And we created a comic book on election rights. And there are over 1 million published copies of Lawtoons. So of that particular Lawtoons for the Election Commission. So we've reached millions of people with Sentinels of Democracy, a part of Lawtoons on election laws. So when government takes it up, it takes a huge scale. Yeah.
We have a question. Maybe you could do a cartoon about the future of law.
Yeah, Anya, we talked about this.
Yeah, Gavni, we've actually addressed this when first spoke with Kanan. We were thinking about having a cartoonist at our session, because what we are now thinking about or talking about at many different sessions is the complexity of the legal system. And a lot of times we are diving into very specific topics and addressing, the data management, or be it the blockchain, for example, or space law or public procurement. And one thing that we have decided or made a pledge to ourselves before the summit was that we are going to make it as family friendly as possible, and being mindful of how the complex titles or complex concepts need to be explained as if you're explaining it to a 5-year-old. Because if we are able ourselves to explain it in such a simple manner, then everybody will be able to understand it. And this is something that we can also achieve through the cartoons or through the visualization. Although, I'm actually interested because you said that you went and consulted with a lot of therapists for kids. And I see that as a very important step to be made, because one is the inspiration that you get. And then the second thing is that you have to decide how you're going to be describing all these concepts. And, one thing is to just talk endlessly about these all things, but putting it into a comic is almost like you really have to have a system in place. It's very hard, it seems.
Yes, what can I say? This is the most important part, the writing of the script and the storyboarding of it. A lot of people say that you might even trivialize, something so important. And law sometimes is supposed to be complicated. And sometimes you need that nuance, which cannot come in a comic book. Absolutely. As a lawyer, I know that. And there are laws which need that nuance, and then there are laws which needs the outreach. And you cannot at any cost make it so complicated. The fundamental things that people need to know, and that's how it requires a lot of, how can you say, a love for the subject to give that extra certain time.
Kanan, what is your big dream? Like, one thing is to work with governments, but do you have like a bigger dream to like a customer that you would like to work for, or a specific law, specific domain? What are you dreaming about?
Right now, and I'll be extremely honest, I genuinely want to make a case for justice innovation. Right now, that's my strong desire. A lot of people feel that, and I think perhaps it comes from my own experience of constantly meeting resistance of lawyers and judges and policymakers who want to have the power, who want to create such complicated ways for people not to penetrate inside of it. And for people struggle, we are talking about lives of people, and I really want to make sure that change comes, and the simplification, efficiency, and how can you say, creativity, which the space requires so much, is infused from every direction. That's why I think being here in the Netherlands to see how justice innovation is happening in different parts of the world is so important also. So every day is a learning opportunity, and definitely with Lawtoons, lot of things can happen once I start putting full time onto it again. Yeah, no, it's
that I need to ask
personal
you.
journey. Sorry.
Since we're having the Future Law Collaborative, right? And you mentioned that you were crowdsourcing the finances, because this is nevertheless quite a financial burden for the creation of all these books, and then to be sent and then to be published, etc. How about crowdsourcing the inspiration? And for example, since you're interested in the justice innovation, just having an institute, there's plenty more people coming from all over the space. Do you have like some sort of a mechanism, or how do people reach out to you and suggest or, inspire you as well?
Oh, that is so beautiful. People are doing such amazing things right now, and they've always done. I think the right social platforms and to be connected to the right people is so important, so that you are inspired, you read different things, you feel challenged, especially in the justice sector. We all know so much has changed after COVID, and even the established systems are looking at reinventing themselves. So there is a lot of interesting conversations happening on forums like these with people who are so passionate about what they do in this space. So that network, that community is very important. And
Mhm.
I'm always, I mean, I'm on certain social media, so I'm definitely open to hearing ideas of collaboration. And yeah, opportunities like these, that I feel so honored by, to be invited to speak at a platform like this. So
Oh, we need
so
definitely more
grateful,
people
so
like
grateful.
yourself. Thank you so much. If there's any website or social media that we could go and see more books coming into existence, or just how to contact you, that would be great.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to be sharing the Future Law WhatsApp group that we have, just because we are having a bunch of people in there, and I do believe that I mean, I already shared some of the pictures in there, so I hope
Ah,
people
so nice of you.
like. So here is the link. We do have a lot of people coming from all over the place. Some of them are in India as well. We do have an Indian group. Some of them are in America, some of them in Africa. So there's people from all around the world that are coming together for this summit. And I do believe that a lot of people are going to be interested in the Lawtoons as well.
That's
Um,
brilliant. Imagine having an open source library of Lawtoons, Anya.
right,
Imagine that. Like,
exactly.
we can create a platform where different laws can be put there, and then there are people sitting who can simplify it. That would be so amazing. Geography redundant. We can keep doing it. It's an important work for many people's lifetimes.
To some extent, I actually believe that this is how the first step towards the research might be actually made. You want to compare, especially when you want to make a comparative research within different jurisdictions, for example. Let's take the tax laws. You have the tax law in France, and you have a tax law in, let's say, Uganda. And you want to see what are the differences or what are the similarities. And one way to go might be to just go and see the cartoons or to see the graphics
Oh,
out of
so
what has been created.
I'm putting the the intention in the divine sources now. I hope that becomes a reality. That will be so amazing. So many people's lives will be simpler. So many people will be able to understand something that affects them. Disputes will be less, more peace. The ultimate outcome can be so brilliant.
Mhm. And if we don't know how to simplify it, then we obviously don't yet understand it fully.
Yay, exactly.
That was actually a quote from Einstein, so don't quote it
Yay.
from me. That was Einstein. All I was thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
I see some amazing comments by Aravni and Teresa and Alisa. So I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much, ladies. Elisa, what is happening next? What do we have on our schedule?
Next up, we have the founders chat, which you, Ms. Bly, need to be present for.
All right. And I'll switch my room. I'll go upstairs. Absolutely. Thank you for that. But Kanan, please stay on our summit. There's plenty more sessions to observe. There is different rooms happening at the same time, simultaneously. We have labs happening in the evening. So depending on which time zone you're in, but since you're in Netherlands right now, yeah, you should be able to actually watch whichever session you want to. Plus, you'll have the replays to all of the things online on our platform. So keep in touch. Please
Yeah.
send us everything that you create, and any updates that you have, please just share it in the WhatsApp group, and we'll disseminate the information.
Oh, so wonderful. I will. Thank you so much for this opportunity once again. And I look forward to more interesting conversations on these platforms. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much for all the hard work. More power.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.